Okay, so my name is Kate LaManna, and you are here today to the presentation that I'm giving about how to end homework wars. This is predominantly about executive functioning and how to develop those skills in students and children, really at any age, but I tend to focus more on kids between the ages of 11 and 12 to through high school, sometimes college, but generally those are the group that I work with. So just so you know too, I am a certified teacher here in Massachusetts, where I'm from, and was in the classroom for some years, but also started doing a lot of one-on-one and working with kids predominantly with ADHD who knew how to kind of knew the material, but really didn't know how to actually start to put it to work, right? How to execute the work that they need to get done. I would sit there at such a loss. So anyway, that's that. So what I'm going to do here for this presentation is, like I said, I am recording it. If anybody can't hear me, let me know through the chat. And then the last thing is I'm going to turn off my camera until I'm through with the presentation. And then once the presentation is complete, then I'm going to turn on my camera and open up the floor for questions. Okay? So that's how this is going to go. So first thing I'm going to do is I am going to turn off my video. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully I can do this because there we go. All right. Again, welcome everybody. This is my launch workshop for how to end homework wars. This is my first time, I'm going to be honest, doing this, and I'm super excited. I have been teaching executive functioning skills to students for well over 20 years. I am a certified teacher here in Massachusetts where I live, and noticed over time that it wasn't so much the kids that didn't know how to access the curriculum. They knew how to do that part, but they didn't know how to start executing the work they needed to get done. They were tired, they were overwhelmed. The teachers sometimes didn't give enough explicit instruction how to do something, and it was just assumed that they should know how to do it. And as many of you I'm sure know, that's not always the case. And it's not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. But like any skill, things need to be taught. Anyway, I'm going to begin. Here we go. Okay, so welcome everybody. I am so glad you are here. Let's start off here. If your evenings feel like you're bracing for impact the minute school ends, in words, homework time can change the entire mood of your house, you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to give you a way to understand what actually is happening underneath the procrastination, the stalling, the arguing, the shutting down, and most importantly, what to do about it in a way that builds independence without turning you into your child's full-time project manager. So before we begin, I would strongly suggest you have a piece of paper, again, and a pencil or a pen. I am going to be sending out this recording. So this will be, if you don't have a pen or paper handy or wherever you are, don't worry about it. Will be sending out the recording to all of you who registered either tonight or tomorrow, just so you know. And if you don't get it, obviously shoot me an email and I will send it to you. So here we go. It's a little housekeeping. Grab something to write with. Like I said, if you don't have it, don't worry about it. And then before we go any further, I want you to really know nobody's bad here. Nobody's a bad parent. Nobody has a bad child. What we're experiencing happens to a lot of families, and we're all just trying to solve a skill with motivation tools. And it's hard to do that. It is hard because we want our kids to do well. And sometimes our ideas don't match with what they're thinking. So we're going to here try to figure out a way that we can all get on the same page so that we can start seeing the success that we all want, including your kids' success. Here's me, pretty good picture. So this is me. My name is Kate LaManna. I have a master's in English and a master's in teaching or education. Been executive functioning coach and a learning strategist for well over 20 years. Want to let you know that I work with a lot of ADHDers, a lot of families where not just the children have ADHD, but the parents do too, but I do focus on the children. And I want to let you know what I've seen again and again. The families who change this pattern are the ones who do not the ones who get stricter. They're the ones who stop treating executive functioning like a character trait and start treating it like a set of skills that we can build and strengthen over time. In other words, your child's not bad. Your child's not trying to be defiant. Your child just doesn't know what to do. Okay, let's see. If you're here, you've probably had that moment, maybe last night, where you looked at the clock and thought, how is it 9:30 and we're still fighting about one worksheet? You're sitting at the kitchen table, your child is melting down or zoning out, and you could feel your own patience evaporating. And then later, when we all go to bed, you're left with the guilt spiral. Why did I yell? Why can't I help them? What if they never become independent? That's the part people don't talk about. The invisible emotional cost of night after night. It feels like it's Groundhog's Day every day. And I've been there with these kids, and it's exhausting because you say to yourself, we just went over this last night. We just did this repeatedly. It's common. It's common. But today's big promise is this. By the end of this workshop, you'll be able to look at a specific struggle, right? Starting homework, that is, finishing homework, remembering materials, emotional blowups, and say, okay, that's not defiance. That's a skill gap. That's what we're looking for, defining skill gaps, okay? And when you can name that skill, you can stop guessing what you're doing wrong. You can stop throwing random tools at the wall. You can stop feeling like you're failing. You get a clear path, what to scaffold, what to teach, and how to step out of the nagging role without everything falling apart. And like I said before, right? It's not that they won't, but they can't yet. One of the biggest mindset shifts for ADHD families is this, moving from they won't do it to they can't do it yet without support. And I know that can feel scary because it sounds like I'm stuck doing everything forever. But that's not true. That is really not true. It's really quite the opposite. So when you treat the issue, right, as a skill delay, you stop relying on the pressure to get it right, right? You stop relying on the fights. You stop by building capacity. ADHD kids don't become independent by being pushed harder. They don't. They'll actually resist that. They become independent by being coached through the exact missing steps until their brain can do it with less support. That's the key. Less support. So, what we're looking for here is we're going to look at symptoms versus root causes, right? A lot of the symptoms that you'll see from kids when they're resisting work is procrastination, meltdowns, refusal, forgetting everything, or even lying about homework. That one irritates me the most, but that is a big one. Lying about homework, right? But you have to remember these are not them being defiant. It's really not. In most cases, let's say. It's really not them being defiant. What it really is, it's the symptoms that you really can't, that are beneath everything, right? The root cause is what's driving it underneath. Executive functioning is the brain's management system. Things like starting, planning, organizing, remembering, regulating emotions, and tracking time. When those skills are lagging or are not there at all, right? Your child isn't choosing chaos, they're experiencing it. So that's what comes out, that emotion, those symptoms, the procrastination, the meltdowns, the refusal, because in their head, they don't know what to do. Okay. The smart but stuck trap. I hear this all the time. My kid is so smart. People that get the neuropsychs, they'll say, oh, they have such a high IQ, but why can't they do these things, right? True. The intelligence doesn't have anything to do with how you execute something, right? I think there's a lot of smart people out there, but they can't do everything that's we're sometimes expected to do. So this is the part here that a lot of parents get upset about. They think and they know their child is smart. They know their child can talk their ear off about their favorite topic. They can build complex Lego sets, right? They can be hilarious, creative, insightful, and still not be able to write a paragraph. So parents think, well, if they can do all these other things, they should be able to do this. But intelligence and executive functioning are not the same. Executive functioning is how you execute, right? Not how smart you are. And when your child can't execute, they don't feel smart. They feel behind. They feel incapable. And that's when shame and resistance start to grow, right? Something that appears simple, and if they can't do it, then they feel bad about it. We don't want that, right? We definitely don't want that. Everybody's been here, the kitchen table scene, right? All right, so let's paint this picture. It's after school, you're trying to get dinner going. Your child says they have, quote, no homework. And already you know that means, oh yeah, there's homework. You check the portal, there's two missing assignments, and something is due tomorrow. Now you're in detective mode, manager mode, timekeeper mode. Your child is staring at the page like it's written in another language. You're repeating directions, they're snapping back, and the whole evening becomes about getting a task done instead of teaching the brain how to do the task. And that's the key word, how to do it. Not the how to do the math, but what are the steps to actually get it done, the administrative level of how to get it done. For the sake of this presentation, we're going to go over 6 basic executive functioning domains. Okay. This is a good one to keep on hand. Nice to have it. So you have like, okay, what's the task they're missing? You have this list, right? So executive functioning includes task initiation. That means knowing how to start something, right? Planning and prioritizing, deciding what comes first, what comes next, working memory, holding on to the steps in your head, organizing like materials and systems, say like your backpack, things like that. Emotional regulation, staying steady under frustration, meaning not blowing up, right? Self-monitoring and noticing, hey, I'm off track. I should put down the phone and stop looking at TikTok for 2 hours, and knowing when to get back on track and get the work done. Again, everybody has these issues. I don't even call them issues, but everybody does these things from time to time where they, get off track, don't know how to start something. That's fine. But a lot of these kids need more support to help them do it on a daily basis. All right, agenda books, calendars, they work only if you know how to use them. Okay. So if you're providing your kids saying, oh, here, I'm going to make a chart, you should do this, they're not going to look at it, right? You should say, you should use your calendar because you need to understand what's coming up later down the road. They can't. A lot of ADHDers have no idea how to future think. They're living in the moment, literally. Maybe they can future think about things they like when the next, I don't even know, movie's coming out they want to see, or you told them we're going out to dinner on Friday and they'll remember that forever and ever. And you're like, why can't you remember to do your math homework? But you remember I said we're getting pizza on Friday. That's completely normal because you know why pizza is more fun than homework. So we're trying to figure out ways that we can teach them how to use these tools in ways that are going to work for their brain. Okay. So when we provide them with these tools, yeah, they'll work, but not now. Down the road, that's when they come in handy. So we're going to get there. That's how we're going to do in this workshop. All right. This is where so many moms start getting stuck when they start feeling guilty, right? And dads, I should say, moms and dads, right? You're researching at midnight, you're listening to podcasts, you're trying to stay calm, and then you lose it because you're human and you feel like you failed. But the truth is, you've been trying to parent your way out of a nervous system and skill problem. It's like blaming yourself for not being able to be patient, to be able to teach someone to drive without lessons and without a car and without practice. In other words, if you don't have what you need to get them out of this, stop blaming yourself. This is what we're here to do, to teach you how to develop your skills so that you can transfer the skills now you know to help your child. Fun fact, which a lot of people I don't think know about, which if you think about it does make sense, right? One of the most important truths for ADHD families is this: executive functioning develops on a different timeline. And that's true of everybody. Executive functioning is one of the last things to develop for everybody across the board. But for those with ADHD, it's even a slower progress in development, right? Many ADHD kids are working with a brain that is still developing the management skills we assume they should have by now. Okay. So, in other words, if they are in grade 10, let's shave 3 years off of that. They're really operating like they're in grade 7. Okay. Not all of them and not with every single skill, but this is a general rule of thumb. If your ADHD student or child is lagging in executive functioning, take those 3 years back and kind of put them in that position. And that's okay. You know what? Gives you a framework and a landing point of where you need to begin this whole process. This is the slide I don't like, but unfortunately it's true. This is where so many parents say, well, you know what? School was manageable in the early elementary years, and then all of a sudden it took off, right? School demands accelerate, more teachers, more due dates, more long-term projects, more independence is expected. But your child's executive functioning skills may not be accelerating at the same rate, and that's what makes it hard. So you respond, and we all do this, you respond in by stepping in more because you feel like you have to, and then you're trapped in the role you never wanted. The reminder system, the tracker, the enforcer, and your child starts to believe the story, I can't do it without less mom and dad are helping me. I just can't. And then eventually, sometimes they just push away. And we don't want that, right? We want to catch it before it's makes everybody really frustrated. Okay. The external brain cycle. This one, oh, everybody's gone through this, right? Let's name that cycle. You remind, they resist, you push, they melt down, you take over because you don't have time for the 3 hour battle. The assignment does get done, but the skills are not being built, right? And that's the key. The more you take over, the less practice your child gets using their own developing skills. So the next night, they need you again and they feel the same resentment building because you didn't sign up to be your child's prefrontal cortex. I like to relate this a lot. One of my earlier teaching experiences was I learned quickly that children didn't know how to write a paragraph. I taught seventh grade at the time, and really working with them on how to structure that step by step piece. And those kids who struggled with it didn't bring the scaffolding that I provided home. I mean, this is before there was really internet. So there was no way of emailing it. You either brought it home or you didn't. And what it was is I could see the parents would write the paragraphs for them. And the kid was proud because he felt it was good because somebody else really did the work for him, but he didn't learn anything, right? Same thing here. We don't want to just keep doing the work for them. We want to figure out strategies and those scaffolds that will allow them from the foundation level start to build up so they can finally build that paragraph or build the skill or like I just said, write the paragraph on their own. Will it be perfect? No. Will it be done on their own? Yes. And that's the key. The more confidence they start building through it, then the easier it's going to get. It's that repetition, it's that reinforcement, it's starting small, circling over and over and over again. Taking over is not bad parenting, though, after I just said all that, right? But it's sometimes in your head, oh, I just have to get through this day. I have to just get this done. You're trying to keep that ship afloat. You're trying to get your child through school. You're trying to keep peace in your home. And I get it. I get it. Sometimes it's just easier to do it yourself than it is to wait and try to figure it out. But it's really not setting them up for long-term independence, right? It's setting them up for long-term dependence. And we've all done it. I'm not shaming anybody by any stretch. I've done it with my own kids. I'm like, I'll just do it myself, right? But it doesn't pay off. So we're trying to shift the thinking here so we get away from us jumping in and trying to save the issue versus how can we teach the skills to help them grow and become the independent children we want them to be. So under the resistance, there's often fear from your child, right? Fear of getting it wrong, fear of feeling stupid, fear of disappointing you again or their teachers. So the child's brain protects them. They avoid, they sometimes argue, they shut down, or they explode. And the more the shame grows, the harder it becomes to initiate because initiation requires belief, right? That understanding and that belief in themselves. If I can begin, is every beginning, sorry, let me start over. If they don't believe they can do it, they won't do it, right? But if every beginning ended with frustration and correction, the brain learns beginning can be dangerous. That's why we focus on building safety one skill at a time. And here's your end of it, right? You have chronic stress from being on the alert, checking portals, anticipating teachers' emails, bracing for that evening, seeing that laundry list of things that haven't been passed in, right? Seeing the bad test grades. A big thing I always get is from families, well, why can't he seems to be able to do the homework, let's say, but doesn't know how to study for the test. And we have plummeting test scores, right? And it makes you nervous whenever these kinds of assessments come up. It changes how you show up. You can feel your patience shrinking. You can feel your body tense. You can feel the resentment or the stress starting to creep in, right? And then there's a relationship piece of this, right? Between you and your partner, between you and your child. You don't want to be the angry mom or dad. You want a connection with your child. You want there to be peace in the house. You want your child to feel capable. And that's really not too much to want. All right, so this next slide, what actually does work? Are you ready? It's not motivation hacks. It's not threats. It's not perfect consistency, and perfection is far from this, just so we know. What works is skill-based systems that meet your child where their brain is right now, okay? Then we build from there with repetition and support. All right, we're going to use 3 ideas today. One is shared language, so it's not personal. We're going to keep it all pretty neutral. Scaffolding, so they know what to do every step, and practice, so skills strengthen over time. When you combine these, you stop living in constant reaction and you start building a predictable path forward. All right, step number one, we're going to break it down here. Name the skill, and this is important, not the behavior. The behavior is just the symptom of the root problem. The skill that's lagging is your root problem. So, all right. So tonight, when your child avoids homework, instead of saying, why are we doing this? Or why are you doing this? I want you to try saying, what skill in your head, don't say it out loud, in your head, what skill is missing right now? Are they stuck starting? Are they overwhelmed by steps? Are they forgetting instructions? Are they dysregulated? This tiny shift changes the tone instantly. It does. It calms you down. It really does when you frame it this way. Because now you're on the same team, problem solving the brain, not judging the person. Your child's going to feel less attacked. You feel less helpless. And now you can choose the right support instead of escalating. Step two, calm first. Calm. Okay. There's a lot of ADHD training out there that says, and I think it's true. I really do, and I find it true in most every case. Whenever I feel like my I'm losing my own emotional regulation, is that take that pause and those couple deep breaths, right? It actually it sounds, and maybe it's not silly, but I do think it's really helpful in helping you bring down your own emotional regulation so that you can regulate along with your child. Okay. If your child is starting to melt down, that coaching window will be closed. Their thinking brain goes completely offline. So trying to teach responsibility right now is not going to work, right? So calm first means you de-escalate before you solve the problem. You take a breath, you validate the overwhelm, you reduce the threat. Then, and only then, you can start teaching the skill. This is not permissive, it's strategic, and it's how you keep the brain available for learning, both yours and your child's. First two steps in this were basically just how to emotionally regulate and handle the issue. Once we get that going in a good position, right? Then I advise we move on to step three, and only then, only then. The first two steps are really about shifting the tone and building more of the trust and realizing that we're not going to be fighting anymore. We're working together. Does that make sense? Even if you're not really yelling, we're just taking the temperature down in the room. So when we're ready, we can move into this next step. Okay. Step three is a tool. One of my favorite tools is based on Sarah Ward. Okay, Sarah Ward is a executive functioning coach based in Massachusetts, and she does a lot of teacher training on executive functioning. And she uses a model that I really like called Ready, Do, Done. All right, ADHD brains often struggle to see the future on tasks, right? They really can't picture the steps. They can't have that idea, that visual in their mind on how to do it, right? So having this model can help them form that visual so the task at hand doesn't seem so overwhelming. Okay. Ready, do, done makes the invisible visible. Ready is everything you need to start. That's in the first column. Do, which is generally in the middle, is the actual work block. And done is what finished looks like. Turning it in, putting it away, resetting. When your child can see the path, initiation gets easier because the task feels contained. Okay. If I were to use this tool, heads up, I would use it probably just on one subject if I was going to apply it to school, and maybe even one part of that subject for homework, just to practice it. Or if you were to do something, say at home, like a chore, that you really want your child to learn or do, you can implement that too. But I keep it really simple and not when there's pressure, like, oh my gosh, we have a paper due tomorrow. Let's get this done. No, wrong timing. You want to do it when it's totally low key and everyone's chill and more open-minded to try it. Here's an example of a ready to done model. So we can see on the left, we have ready, and there's a bunch of just things randomly thrown in here, but you can make it as specific as you want, depending on what you're working on. So ready could be open laptop or charge your computer, right? Get math book, pull up the assignment, set a timer. A lot of kids need that timing to be able to see how time's passing. So I would suggest working with like a clock or just old school kitchen timer allows them to see time actually moving. And then ready could also be write the first problem number. Whatever you want it to be, whatever works for your child, that's fine. Do is your work column, okay? Do is, depending on how your kid operates, 12 minutes of work, right? Or let's start with I'll do one with you. That's the first one we do together, then you do the second one. Do is then we take a 3-minute break after we finish our first set of problems, and then we repeat as we keep doing it, right? You can design do to be any way you want to be. This is just a model. Done is check your answers. Take a photo or submit your homework online. Put the paper in a correct folder and then pack up your backpack, right? Get everything done, right? So when you have these steps written out, um, the child knows what to do. And again, this is not something that you would give to your child and say, here's your ready to do done, go for it. You do have to walk them through it for several times for them to kind of get in the practice of it. And then you will see once they have that visual on how to execute, this will become better. My other favorite one is this other tool called win then routines, right? The win then routine reduces negotiation. They remove the daily courtroom debate. When homework is done, then screen time. When backpack is packed, then we choose music in the car. It's calm, simple, and predictable. And I think this works really well with the younger kids. It does work well too with the older kids. It just says you're giving them what they want, but you got to do this first. And they really like this because it gives that really short um, instruction, and it gives them also the reward at the end, like, oh, you want to I'll give you, if you get dressed or whatever, we'll give you a lollipop. That's fine, whatever you want it to be, but it gets what you want done and it gives them what they want. The coaching model, okay, this is the key. Once we're kind of in the mode of like things moving and churning along, right, we can really start implementing the leap coaching cycle, right? This is where independence gets built over time through leap. L stands for learn the skill, what it actually is. Equip, E is equip with support that matches the skill gap. A is for apply, apply it in real life, like homework, chores, mornings, practicing until it becomes automatic. Most families skip the equip part and jump right into apply. They say just do it. But ADHD brains need support first. They need visuals, timers, checklists, templates, routines. So practice is possible without constant conflict. Supports aren't training wheels forever, but they are the bridge. And what I like about this too is that when you are doing the apply, right, and practice, the more physical you can make it, like actually stand up and do this, or go sit down and do this, or make it silly, skip over and do that, right? They're going to remember the steps because they're applying something physical to it. And the ADHDers, they really need that physical piece, the touching, the watching, the movement to help them remember the steps. They're not everybody, but a lot of them struggle with, like I said, forming that picture in their head and how they get the steps done. So applying something physical to it, something they can touch, something they can smell, something that they can feel or see as they're doing it, or the movement, that's going to help with them reinforcing the learning. All right, first 48-hour win. If you're thinking, okay, Kate, this makes sense, but where do I start? I can't stress this enough. You're gonna really want to start super small. Pick one hot spot. It's just starting homework, right? Your morning routine. Backpack packing for the date night before school starts the next day. Choose one step that breaks everything, right? One. Something that is maybe an easy win too. Maybe it's not the thing that you find most frustrating that they don't get done. Pick something super simple that they're going to get right out of the gates and be like, oh, wow, this is great. Then you're going to scaffold that step, not with a lecture, but with visuals, a timer, maybe the ready, do, done plan or the win then, and practice for 7 days. ADHD skill building looks like reps, not overnight transformation. But with reps, you feel the tone shift. You feel less fighting, you feel more cooperation. The first thing it usually changes isn't perfect homework completion, it's the emotional temperature. You stop escalating as quickly because you understand what is happening. Your child feels less judged because you're naming skills, not blaming the child, right? Then you start seeing follow through. Starting becomes less dramatic. Finishing becomes more consistent. Transitions become smoother. And over time, this is the goal. Your child begins to internalize the structure. That's when you start stepping back and the system still holds. I want you to borrow a phrase that I teach families. We're detectives, not disciplinarians. Because the moment you start investigating the skill behind the struggle, you stop fighting your child like they're the enemy. You become a coach, a guide, a co-pilot that changes your child's identity too. They stop seeing themselves as the kid who can't, and they start seeing themselves as the kid who's learning how. That identity shift is everything because shame kills effort and hope fuels practice. If you're listening and thinking this is the first time it makes sense, or I can finally see why nothing has worked, then you're exactly who I created my program for. Because knowing is one thing, implementing in real life when you're tired, when your child is dysregulated, when school demands keep coming, that's where families get stuck. And that's where support changes everything. So I want to show you the full path I take families through to go from the nightly wars to calm, repeatable independence. And really the key word is two keywords, calm and repeatable. So the ADHD Independence Method is my 12-week signature program where I help parents end nightly homework battles and build calm, confident independence without becoming your child's external brain every single night. This is for the parent who's done living in constant reminder mode. You want a clear framework. You want tools that work at home. You want your child to feel capable, and you want to stop feeling like the bad cop in your own kitchen. Here's what we're building: a home where routines don't require you to repeat yourself 47 times, where your child knows what ready looks like, where done, what done actually means, and when you're not lying awake replaying the evening and wondering what you did wrong. And yes, it does take practice, but it's the right kind of practice. It is, it really is. It's not trying harder, it's structured coach skill building that meets your child's brain where it is and steadily strengthens what is lagging. Okay, so inside the program, there's no guessing, right? We identify the executive functioning drivers underneath the struggle. Is it initiation? Is it working memory? Is it planning? Is it organization? Is it emotional regulation or self-monitoring? Or maybe it's a mix of them all. It's most likely that, right? Then we match strategies to the real root cause. When we talk about root cause, we want to be specific, okay? We want to truly understand what it is, okay? Developmentally, so what we're going to do then, when we get that root cause, then we're going to find developmentally appropriate scaffolds, visuals, time tools, routines, and language shifts. And then we're going to practice that consistently with support from me, so you're not trying to do this alone while also juggling your life. Because that's a lot. It is a lot. Okay. So So here's the LEAP Independence Framework again, right? This is the framework families keep for years because it's repetitive. You can do it really with anything, right? Once you know how to LEAP, you can apply it to homework, morning routines, chores, long-term projects, studying, and even emotional blow-ups. I use this even in my own life when I don't know how to do something. I start breaking this all down so I can something that I'm trying to learn. It's incredibly helpful and it's a way of a go-to. Like I don't feeling overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. I go to this every single time, whether it's for myself, whether it's for my kids, whether it's for my students, whatever we're doing, this is what I my go-to for. So instead of reinventing the wheel every semester, you have a repeatable way to say, okay, what skill is lagging now? What supports do I need to help it? How do we practice it in a way that my child or I can actually succeed? That's how you build an independence that lasts. All right, so here's what the program looks like. We start by learning what's actually happening, okay? It's 12 weeks. We start there. You stop interpreting skill gaps as attitude. Then we equip you, the parent, because calm and clarity are the gateways to skill building, right? Then we apply the tools that match your child's real needs. And finally, we make it sustainable. So progress doesn't disappear after one good. The program is incredibly structured. It's step by step. It's designed for real families, meaning imperfect, busy, tired families who still want change. I want it simple for everybody because I know if it's not simple, it's not going to happen. So we want to keep it really simple and really strategic so that it is applied. So what you get if you sign up for the course is you get weekly group coaching calls with me every week for 12 weeks. That time you can bring any questions you want to the table. right? What's happening in your real life right now? All right. I want to hear it. We're going to talk it through and we're going to come up with a solution. You also get a ton of resources, right? You get worksheets, visuals, templates. So we're not just talking, we're actually writing all this stuff down on worksheets, a journal that you can keep, all these great things that I find incredibly helpful. And I hope you do too. And here we go. One reason parents burn out is because they're constantly guessing, is this really working? And am I focusing on the right thing? Inside my program, you'll use the ADHD Executive Functioning Skill Assessment to identify your child's top lagging skills and strengths. So your plan is targeted, right? We want it to be focused on really what we're working on. Then you'll build practical supports. You can use the ready, do, done visual for homework and daily routines, the win then sequence that reduces negotiations, the time awareness tools, the calm first plans, and the family independence blueprint. So it becomes a way, this becomes a way to helps you build success. Most parents feel relief fast because the clarity reduces shame. You stop thinking, what's wrong with us? And you start thinking, oh, this is a skill. This is a plan. We're working on this skill, and that's the plan we're working on, right? Then the tone shifts. You see less escalation, more cooperation, more confidence. Systems start doing the heavy lifting. And by the end, you have a blueprint you can keep using at school as school's demands increase. Because ADHD doesn't need a one-time fix, as we all know. It needs repeatable ways to build the skills. All right, so who's this for and who's it not for? Okay. This course is good for kids that are super smart but are engaging in daily battle. This is for kids who need constant reminders. This is if your homework equals nightly stress for your family. If you are looking for practical tools that you can actually use and not just talking theoretically, and you want guidance while you implement, right? You want to be able to talk to somebody about this so that you can get feedback in real time on what to do. This is not for you if you just want a magic solution. Unfortunately, there's no such thing. I wish there was. It'd be a lot easier, right? And that doesn't require any kind of practice. You do have to practice this, right? Like anything, if you want improvement, we have to work at it, right? And then skill building requires a lot of repetition, right? So if you're not committed to trying and repeating this over and over for like say a week or a week or two, then this isn't for you. So right now, this is my launch of this course. Right now, if you pay in full, the course would be $499 for 12 weeks, which includes weekly coaching with me. Or if it's easier, we can do three payments of 189, one payment per month. And this program here is actually helped to develop, like I said, the independence step by step. So again, what you're getting, you're getting recordings of lessons, but you're getting a lot of time with me as well. If you're interested, you can enroll now and you pick the payment option that's going to work for you. Then you're going to get onboarding, which is going to help you kind of figure out what your child's root causes are. And then we're going to start building the independence with the weekly coaching support. Okay. So the key is what 2 weeks from now, you are going to see a difference, especially in yourself. That's where the first big change happens and how you approach these root causes. And then and your child's going to see it too. Your child's going to see a big difference in how you're approaching the issues or the what you consider to be the problems. And once they understand what their problem is, then you're going to see there's going to be a better connection and you're going to start seeing that we're working towards a common goal together. All right. Before I take any questions, I wanted to say this. ADHD kids aren't failing because they don't care. Parents aren't failing because they're not consistent enough. What you're missing is the skill. You don't need more pressure, you need that bridge. So part of you is saying, but what if my child refuses? What if we've tried everything? Or I don't have time? We're going to address that directly because they are real, valid concerns. All right, first question that I get all the time. We've tried everything. Why would this work? That question usually comes from somebody who's just so stressed out and so like, I've done it all. I can't handle anything else. So you've tried tutoring, charts, apps, therapy, rewards. You're tired of getting your hopes up. So the real question underneath is, what if we invest again and nothing changes? Here's why this is different. We're not repeating surface strategies here. We're identifying the executive functioning root cause behind the behavior and teaching skills in a developmentally appropriate way. When you stop treating systems and start building the missing steps, the right strategies finally have somewhere to land. And that's what's great about the coaching. So if you can identify the root cause but don't even know where to begin, we can go through that together and we can really develop a plan that's going to help you work with your child specifically to help step by step develop the skills that you want them to have and that they actually want to have. I don't have time. Time is busy. I hear you, and I want to gently offer you this. We're already spending the time. You're spending it in battles, in hovering, in repeating yourself, in portal checking, in late night worry. The time is already being taken. It's just not taking, and it's just taken in the wrong ways, right? This program is designed to reduce the time, not add to it. You focus on one skill at a time with templates that replace constant talking and nagging. The talking's not going to work. But part of you need the visuals, right? The goal is fewer hours at the kitchen table, fewer spirals, and more predictable routines that run without you carrying every step over time. You're going to see a difference over time. What if my child refuses or melts down? Okay, this is a huge common all the time, all the time. And it doesn't mean you're failing, and it doesn't mean to throw in the towel either, right? The resistance, remind you, is often a signal that a task feels overwhelming, unclear, or threatening. If your child has a history of struggling, the brain learns to protect them with avoidance, arguing, and shutting down. Got to ratchet it way back. If this is the resistance you're getting, you got to take it way back, right? That's where we start with calm first and co-regulation before we push skill demands. We reopen the coaching window. Then we introduce supports in a way that reduces overwhelm, smaller steps, clearer visuals, time tools, predictable routines. We don't fight the nervous system, we work with. Oh, some parents are worried this is just another program that's blaming them, right? I hope not, right? If you ever felt you left an appointment feeling judged, like you were just more, if you were just more consistent, more organized, more patient, your child will be fine. I want you to know that's not what we're going to do here at all, right? This is a skill base. We're learning skills, all of us. Your kids learning skills, we're learning skills. We have to all learn. If we already knew the answers to how to help them, then we wouldn't be here, right? So we're trying to figure out ways that we can first build the skills in ourselves so that we know how to teach them to our children, right? We assume that you're doing your best with the information that you have. We're giving you now even better information about executive functioning development and practical tools that will work in daily life. You're not the problem. You're the parent who's been carrying too much without the right. Does this work for older kids and teens? Yes, because we're targeting skills, not cute little kid routines. Executive functioning skills can be coached at any age. The tools just scale. The teen may not want a sticker chart, but they'll use a visual plan, a time awareness tool, and predictable sequence that it's framed as autonomy and control. And for older kids, the stakes may feel higher because they've got grades, missing work, motivation, self-esteem. That's why skill-based coaching matters so much. We stop moralizing the struggle and start building competence. Okay, we already have therapy, meds, or a 504. Do we still need this if we have other supports? This method is complementary. I do agree with this. Complementary to therapy, medication, school supports because it focuses on what's happening in the home, right? Your daily routine, your homework time, your communication, and your practice. Many families have supports on paper, but still feel like evenings are a disaster. Think of it like this. School supports can create access. Therapy supports emotion and coping. Medication can help attention and regulation. This program builds the skill systems and home structures that turn support into follow-through, so your child learns how, not just what. I'm worried I'll do it wrong. What if I can't implement perfectly? Oh goodness. Perfection is not required by any stretch. None of us are perfect, trust me. In fact, perfection is usually what keeps parents stuck. Because it can't be done flawlessly, the brain says, why start? That's a big ADHD thing. I have a lot of kids that think if they can't do it perfectly, then they can't do it at all. So it's about the progress mindset. It really is. This is why coaching and community matter, right? You're going to have weeks where you're tired, your child's dysregulated, and the routine falls apart. That doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you're a real family. The goal is progress and reps, not perfection. Not perfection. What if my partner and I are not aligned? This is a real common question, right? One parent becomes the manager, the other one checks out, or you just disagree on what's going on. A big part of reducing conflict is shared language. This is why we talk about we're going to develop that shared language, right? This is initiation. This is working memory. This is regulation. That's your shared language. It stops being your parenting style versus my parenting style. We're getting it all on the same page. When you have that framework, it's easier to collaborate because you're responding to skills, not arguing about character. Even small shifts, like using that ready, do, done model, can create a shared structure that both parents can point to, right? You guys are sharing that language. You're on the same page on how you address these skills. Oh, my favorite. What if my child fights everything? Okay. When a child fights everything, it's easy to assume it's pure attitude, but often it's a nervous system that can be a living, that's been being a living in threat, right? Constant correction, constant pressure, constant failure of experiences. Opposition can be a protection. ADHD kids, and I don't know the data on this specifically off the top of my head, apparently you get more reprimands in general than those with non-ADHD. So think about it. If you're constantly being told you're doing this wrong, you're not getting going, what's wrong with you, you're not understanding, why didn't you pass in your work? All this negative feedback is wearing, right? So it's going to be natural for them to want to fight it because look, if you're requesting me to do one more thing that's just setting me up for failure, why am I going to bother to do it? That's why it's so important to start developing that shared language, reducing any kind of stress that happens, right? Calm, focused, regulated. And once you start reflecting all that, your child's going to start saying, okay, this is kind of approachable. Let's see what we can do, right? We're not judging them. We want them to do well. They want to do well. We're here to help them. And that's really the key. And we got to get that mind shift for them that when you're calm, their brain starts shifting and they're like, maybe I can try this. Maybe I can do this. It's about those small wins out of the gate. Keep it simple, keep it focused, keep it so that we know it's an automatic win for them and they're going to start seeing the difference. What if we start and it still feels hard? Okay, well, that should be natural, right? It will always be messy at first, and that's completely normal. Any new system creates fiction, especially in ADHD brains, because it's new and it's not really that fun, but we can make it fun, right? Because change requires flexibility, and flexibility is an executive functioning skill too. The difference is messy doesn't mean hopeless. Messy means we're building. We use a reset plan so you don't restart from scratch every time you hit a hard week. We learn how to adjust supports, strengthen the bridge, and keep it moving forward. That's why the key coaching is so important because what it's doing is it's allowing us to really say what worked this week, what didn't work this week, what can we do to readjust, right? How can we shift to a new way to make things happen? All right, final invitation. Stop being the external brain, which means stop being the executive functioning for your child, right? We want to develop their skills. It's possible, beyond possible. It's going to happen, right? But we have to be there to help build those skills. Just like we have to, if we want to build muscle in our arms and legs and body, we got to work at it. Same with here. It's going to the gym, coming home, working on our executive functioning each day, 5 to 10 minutes, and you'll start seeing a difference, right? So if your gut is saying this is our next step, then yeah, we should do this because you don't need more information. You need a method, right? A method that will support you while you're implementing this in real life. You can keep doing what you're doing, and I hope it works, but I'm going to say this. This is something I've been doing for the past 20 years, and it does work. It does help these kids. There is an aha moment. Oh, wow, that's what this really means. This is how you actually, plan for a test. This is how you study. This is how we get homework done. Oh, okay. Or like you're going to see a big difference. Trust me. So again, for those who are interested in enrolling, the course is going to start on January 26th that week with live coaching that week, right? Paying in full before 99, 3 monthly payments of $189, 12 full weeks. If you miss a week, no big deal, right? But you want to take this to the most you can, right? You want to take advantage of everything you have that's coming your way. And I'll be here, and I think it'll be great. Anyway, that is my presentation. I'm going to stop my share. I'm going to turn on my video, and I am going to put on a view so I can see everybody who's here, hopefully. I have one chat. Okay, so that's good. Okay. Any of you guys are free to unmute yourselves. If you have any questions, feel free to ask away. I'm here. Okay. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. I think these days it's not just ADHD kids, pretty much. Yeah, I think there's a lot of kids that are, it's not just ADHD, it's a very common ADHD uh issue, if I'm going to put it that way. But there are kids with non-ADHD. There is a lot of kids with autism, especially autism level one, that are need a lot of executive functioning support. There are kids, especially when they get to the high school, who I see who are now there's a big demand, especially for them to learn how to read, learning to read to learn, where they're really like, I don't even know how to do this. I don't know how to take notes. I don't know what the teacher wants. They need to learn, take more accountability for their own learning, and that's a big stretch for a lot of kids because they've just for years and years and years just did the multiple choice problems, say on Amplify or on IXL or what other Delta Math, right? There really wasn't much of an application where they had to do a lot more critical thinking in order to get to the answer that the teacher wants. There's kids that are, again, strong in the math, but don't know how to apply it. Um, but they are, when they go over to another subject, like something in the humanities, it's harder for them to use those critical thinking skills in a different way. Yes, this is being recorded, and I will be sending it out to everybody, whether you registered or whether you are here. Everybody will get a copy of this for sure. Any other questions from anybody? I'm happy to help. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to drop in the chat. Uh, yes, you can share the yes. I'm just reading the chat here that you will be able to. Oh, what's my frame of thought? You will be able to share it with everybody, but I won't be sending it out probably till tomorrow, just to be fair. So that will be it. But let me see if I can figure this out. And I'm going to get the link to the course. And I'm also going to drop my email in the chat so everybody can have it. Chat. And then here is, if anybody is interested in that, they can sign up there. And then I'm also going to drop my email in. So if you guys want to ask me questions or book a call, if you want to book a call, that's the best way to ask me questions. But here's the choices. Like I said, if you're interested, which would be awesome, you can either book a call and ask me one-on-one. We can talk for about an hour if that's what you need, just asking specific questions. Let me hear about your child, see if we think we're a good fit. But if you think you're ready to go, even better, right? Just sign up. That's it. But here is my email, so you have it, and that's that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for participating. This was wonderful. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Again, any questions? Feel free to share. Anyway, have a good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again.